Hey kids, welcome to Faith Tunes World, where Bible adventures come alive through fun and colorful animation. It's so good to have you with us today for another amazing story from the Bible. This is a very special story, one that teaches us about something really big and important: faith. Faith is like trusting someone with your whole heart, even when you don't understand everything. It's about believing that God has a good plan and will always take care of us. Today, we're going on a journey with a man named Abraham and his beloved son Isaac. It's a story that might seem a little strange at first, but if we watch closely, we'll see how it shows God's incredible love and care in a very powerful way. It's a story about a father, a son, and a very big test of trust. Are you ready? Let's dive into the story of Abraham and Isaac on Mount Moriah. Abraham was a man who loved God very much. He and his wife, Sarah, had waited for a son for a very, very long time. They were old, much older than most parents, when their son Isaac was finally born. Isaac was their miracle, the son God had promised them. You can imagine how much they loved him. He was the light of their lives, and Abraham thanked God for him every single day. They watched him grow from a tiny baby into a strong, helpful young boy. Isaac loved his father, and they did everything together, tending the sheep, telling stories, and praying to God. Their bond was incredibly special. One day, God spoke to Abraham. "Abraham," God called. And Abraham, who was always ready to listen, replied, "Here I am." Then God said something that must have been very hard for Abraham to hear. He said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Offer him there as a special offering on a mountain I will show you." Now, this can sound very confusing and even a little scary. Why would God ask for something like this? It's important to remember that God was testing Abraham's heart. He wanted to see if Abraham trusted him completely, more than anything else in the world, even more than his precious son, Isaac. God never wanted any harm to come to Isaac. This was a test of faith, a way for Abraham to show his deep love and trust in God. Abraham didn't understand why, but he believed that God was good and that God had a plan. So, early the next morning, without questioning, Abraham got up. He prepared his donkey, took 2 of his servants with him, and his son, Isaac. He also cut the wood they would need for the offering. He was doing exactly what God had asked him to do. It must have been the hardest thing he had ever done. As they traveled, Abraham's heart was probably heavy, but his faith in God was strong. He believed that even in this difficult situation, God would be faithful. He trusted that God, who had given him Isaac in the first place, would somehow make everything okay. For 3 days, they traveled. Imagine that long walk. I wonder what Abraham and Isaac talked about. Maybe they looked at the stars at night, or pointed out different animals along the way. But all the while, Abraham knew where they were going and why. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the mountain God had told him about in the distance. He turned to his servants and said, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Did you catch that? Abraham said, "We will come back to you." Even though he was going to follow God's instruction, deep in his heart, Abraham had faith that somehow both he and Isaac would return. He trusted God's power and goodness that much. So, Abraham took the wood for the offering and placed it on Isaac's shoulders. He himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them walked on together, just father and son, Isaac noticed something was missing. He turned to his father and said, "Father?" "Yes, my son?" Abraham answered. Isaac asked a simple, powerful question. "The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the offering?" Imagine how that question must have felt in Abraham's heart. He looked at his dear son, the boy carrying the wood, and with a voice full of faith, he replied, "God himself will provide the lamb for the offering, my son." And so they continued walking together, side by side, climbing the mountain. Isaac trusted his father, and Abraham trusted his heavenly Father. It was a quiet walk, full of love and a deep unspoken trust between them all. When they reached the place God had shown them, Abraham built an altar. An altar is a special table made of stones used for worshiping God. He carefully arranged the wood on top of it. He had followed every one of God's instructions. Then came the moment of the great test. He gently explained to Isaac what God had asked, and Isaac, full of trust for his father and for God, allowed Abraham to tie him and lay him on the altar on top of the wood. Abraham had come this far, trusting God every step of the way. He had a heavy heart, but his faith was unwavering. Abraham then reached out his hand and took the knife. He was ready to obey God completely. His whole heart, his whole being was focused on trusting God's plan, even though it was the hardest thing imaginable. But just as he raised his hand, a voice called out from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham!" It was the angel of the Lord. "Here I am," Abraham replied, stopping immediately. The angel said, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." At that moment, can you imagine the relief that washed over Abraham? Tears of joy must have streamed down his face. He quickly untied Isaac and hugged him tighter than ever before. God has stopped him. God never intended for Isaac to be harmed. The test was over. Abraham had shown that his love and trust in God were absolute. He had passed the test, proving his faith was real and true. Abraham then looked up, and in a nearby bush he saw something amazing. There, caught by its horns in a thicket, was a ram, a male sheep. God had provided the animal for the offering, just as Abraham had told Isaac he would. Abraham went over, took the ram, and offered it as a sacrifice instead of his son. His heart was overflowing with thankfulness and praise for God's incredible timing and provision. Because of this amazing event, Abraham gave that place a very special name. He called it Jehovah Jireh, which means the Lord will provide. And to this day, people remember this story by saying, "On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided." This wasn't just true for Abraham that day. It's a promise for all of us. When we face difficult or confusing times, we can remember that God sees us, He knows what we need, and He will provide. Abraham and Isaac worshiped God there on the mountain, their hearts full of joy and gratitude. Then they walked back down the mountain together, their bond stronger than ever. They rejoined the servants, and they all returned home. This experience changed Abraham and Isaac forever. They had seen God's faithfulness in a way they would never forget. They knew without a doubt that they could trust God with everything. This story isn't just about a test. It is a beautiful picture of God's love and His promise to always take care of those who trust in Him. He is our Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. What an incredible story of faith and trust! It teaches us that even when things are hard to understand, we can trust that God has a good plan. Abraham obeyed God, and God showed him that His love and care are perfect. Just like God provided the ram for Abraham, He provides for us every single day. He gives us food, families who love us, and friends to play with. Most importantly, this story points to an even greater gift: God would one day provide for the whole world. It's a reminder that God's love is bigger than any problem we could ever face. So, whenever you're worried or unsure, remember Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides, and trust that He is always with you. I hope it filled your heart with hope and trust in God. Thanks for watching today's story, kids.